Sure. So I went to a D3 school in Tennessee called University of the South in Sewanee, Tennessee. I played soccer on the men's team there. Graduated in 2018. After I graduated, I spent a year working in banking, decided that's not what I wanted to do, and then got into coaching back in my alma mater on the women's team. I spent 2 years as an assistant coach, the second year being the recruiting coordinator for the program. And then this past August, I moved to Old Dominion University, where I'm now the director of operations for the women's side. So it's definitely different being a university employee. You definitely get to see a lot more of the background of what's going on, kind of like the time and effort that goes into everything, from like the specifics of being within the program, how practices are run, all the logistics of go into, hosting a home game, going to an away game, all the travel and stuff like that. Obviously, the process of bringing student athletes to the team, so the recruitment aspect of that, selling the university, which is a lot of stuff you don't see as a student athlete, from the recruitment standpoint. Yeah, the coach might tell you some of the players, your program's interested in, and you might be involved when like the official visits are happening or even some unofficial visits, but you don't really see, how that process began, all the correspondences that are happening, and, all those background discussions. So I'd say those are a few of the big differences. So I'd say take your time doing research before you reach out to a coach. Be able to talk about the university, be able to talk about why you're interested in that specific school. Don't send out mass emails just with the hopes of some coach, randomly liking you. Coaches want to see that you've put in the time and effort to learn about their school. So, if there is mutual interest and, an offer's made, you come to the school, you're not hating and wanting to transfer after a year. That would be a big thing. And I guess like even more generally that, take the time to think about what you want in a school. How big of a school do you want to go to? Geographic location, what are you interested in? What kind of aspects of a team and team culture are you looking for? Just little things different. Like so the NCAA has rules that on a specific staff at the Division I level, there's only allowed to be 4 specific coaches who actually can be involved in coaching. So can run drills, can, even like touch a ball with the players, stuff like that. So my past 2 years when I was back at Sewanee, I was creating practice sessions, running practice sessions, doing one-on-one time with players when they needed extra work on stuff. So that was a huge difference. Other big difference is there's also a rule that for recruiting purposes, only 3 coaches on a staff at the Division I level are able to do off-campus recruiting. So I'm currently not allowed to do any off-campus recruiting. Any recruiting I'm doing is through like on-campus ID camps. So those are 2 of the more fun aspects of being in, a coach. So that's kind of unfortunate. Right now, a lot of my work is keeping track of like player performance statistics and analytics, doing a lot of administrative like office work, organization of travel and stuff like that. So a lot more time I'm still at every practice, at every game, but more of my work is done in the office compared to being on the field. I think I'm pretty lucky, not lucky, but I think it was beneficial for me to have a year in between when I graduated and became a coach, because that kind of gave me a little bit of time to separate myself, especially going back to the school that I went to coach, having like a little time to separate myself from these people that I went to school with and have seen me as like a peer, to being in a different position where now I'm coaching them. So that is definitely a big transition. Kind of, you're no longer friends with these people. You're the coach. I guess I'm like an authority figure. that's one big thing. I think too is, again, there's so much like time and effort that goes into all of the planning. As a student athlete, you're just kind of showing up to practice, you're showing up to the games. Yeah, you might be doing some film on your own, and making sure you're staying in shape, getting touches on the ball, outside of practices. But you know, especially at the Division III level, it still feels like a second job in addition to being a student. But you definitely have a lot more free time and flexibility. um, as a coach, it becomes more or less your whole life. You're spending, especially in season, so much time on it. So trying to get in that transition from, um, you know, I'm showing up for 3 hours every day to, I've got so much work I've got to do outside of the practices, to keep the program from, falling. So I just always thought for some reason when I was younger, especially like in high school, that I'd always want to go into business. Like my dad's in business. So I was like, yeah, that makes sense. He seems to enjoy it. That's what a lot of people do. I didn't really specifically know what I wanted to do within the banking world, which was probably an issue. Um, and specifically for when I took the position I did out of college, I had a connection to the company and, they offered me the job. So I was like, and it was in New Orleans, which is a city I really like. So I thought, might as well take it. And it was just, I wasn't a huge fan of, there's just so many regulations in the banking world. It was kind of like stressful for me. I didn't really like how formal the setting it is. I didn't know that about me until, I spent a year doing it, but kind of the more casual, not 9 to 5 job that, being a coach was way more beneficial for me. So after a year, I was like, I can't see myself being in, banking long term. And about that, I've been thinking that for a while, but that summer, my first summer after I graduated, the women's soccer position opened up at Sewanee, and I was like, it's my alma mater. If there's ever a time to do it. Good question. I'll tell you just specifically, both on and off the field, we're looking for, naturally good athletes, players who have competed at a high level, specifically, definitely high school, but pretty much 99% of our recruiting is done through club soccer. So you're playing at a high club level, which generally means that you're going to be, your team's going to be invited to the showcases that we're recruiting at, which is typically there's like 4 or 5 showcases each year that we'll be attending. So it's already a good sign if your team's going to be attending one of those. Kind of speaks to your team's ability. Off the field, every school, the 2 schools I've been at are like high academic institutions. So that's, if one, you're going to be accepted into the school, but once you get to the school, high school has prepared you to be successful once you get here. Our team GP at Sewanee was a cumulative 3.4. At ODU, I believe it's a 3.5. So that you're going to come in and you're going to take your academics seriously. Because, that's something that's important. Rarely are any of our players going to be doing soccer past their 4 years of college. So want you to be prepared for the world after. That you're going to be a good teammate. You're not going to cause any drama. You understand that, I guess when it comes specifically to like playing time, because that's oftentimes what causes issues with players. If you're not getting the playing time you want, not causing issues about that, realizing that, this is a team sport. It's not just about you getting your own playing time, but about what's going to make the team most successful. Players who are dedicated to the sport, who are going to put in the time and effort to, during the off season, set themselves up for success. So when they come into preseason, they're in shape. They look like they've been playing the entire summer. So they've been getting touches on the ball. So I guess like self-motivated players, ones who have passion for the sports. And then just like people with good character, honestly. Yeah. That seems like a pretty obvious thing, and I think that kind of goes back to like being a good teammate. If you're a good person, there's 2 generally. I would say I have, and I would say it's less from me being a director of ops and more me going from the Division III level to the Division I level. There's just, compliance wise, there's so many more rules when it comes to Division I than there are Division III. Like at Division III, there's really not that big of a difference between an unofficial and official visit, whereas the visit becomes so much more formal when it's an official visit at the Division I level,
Right.
which in the grand scheme of things is a pretty minor thing to learn. But when it's not something you're dealing with very often, at the Division III level, it's worthwhile knowing when you make that move. So just like tiny things like that, nothing I would say huge, more just like rules and regulations. Yeah. So again, hopefully director of operations. Like I've definitely enjoyed it and learned a lot, but you get into coaching to actually coach.
Yeah.
And I'm not provided that opportunity as much as I would like as a director of ops. So the main reason I took the role was to get to a higher level of soccer. So again, make that transition
Oh,
from
okay.
Division III to Division I. So yeah, and I've enjoyed it. I think I'd definitely like to stay at the Division I level if I can make it work. Um, but yeah, ideally, director of operations is not part of that future.